Well, good evening. Welcome to Bedtime Stories with me, Pastor Michelle. Today is Sunday night, and so let's begin with the Bible story. Our Bible story tonight, and I do hope everyone had a good week. I know as good as can be. I don't know if you did anything exciting. Probably things are just crazy right now, aren't they? But tonight we're going to hear about Joseph. Joseph, I want to start out with a painting by St. Lawrence Alma-Tadema. That's a picture of Joseph, overseer of Pharaoh's granaries. There he is with some really cool looking hair. And then there is a statue of a Theban servant right here. So let's get right, hello, my friends. Let's get right into it. Jacob pampered his beloved son Joseph and gave him a beautiful coat with long sleeves, often erroneously translated as a coat of many colors. It may not have been many colors. His other sons couldn't hide their resentment. Joseph inflamed their envy by having dreams in which he appeared to be placed above his brothers. Furious, the brothers decided to do away with him. The opportunity arose when the brothers were tending their flocks in the valley of Dothan, and Joseph came up to see them. Some brothers wanted to kill him instantly, but Reuben and Judah suggested a lesser penalty. The brothers stripped Joseph and sold him to a passing caravan of traders as a slave. They told their father that Joseph had an unfortunate accident, and Jacob was devastated. Upon their arrival in Egypt, the merchants sold Joseph to Potiphar, a captain of Pharaoh's guard. Joseph soon won his master's trust and was put in charge of the household. But Potiphar's wife was attracted to Joseph and tried to seduce him. When Joseph declined her advances, she covered her tracks by denouncing him to her husband. Joseph was promptly thrown in prison, where he met two prominent inmates, the royal baker and cupbearer. One night these men had disturbing dreams. The cupbearer saw 3 branches. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup. The baker, meanwhile, dreamed the 3 cake baskets were poised on his head, and birds were eating from them. Joseph accurately explained their meaning. The baker would be put to death, but the cupbearer would be restored to his position. 2 years passed until Pharaoh himself had a strange dream. He saw 7 fat cows coming out of the river, which were then devoured by 7 thin cows. None of the king's magicians could explain the meaning. Fortunately, the cupbearer remembered Joseph's gift for divining dreams. Summoned from prison, Joseph explained the dream as a warning of a great famine. Egypt's 7 years of plenty would be followed by 7 years of drought. Now therefore Joseph concluded, let Pharaoh look for a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt, and let them gather all the food of those good years that come. I am Pharaoh, said the king, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Thus the Hebrew slave, the son of Jacob, became the grand vizier of Egypt. Joseph forgave his brothers who had moved to Egypt during the famine, and brought Jacob and all the family's wives, servants, and livestock from Canaan. Pharaoh granted them land in the region of Goshen, the best part of the land, east of the Nile Delta, there to live in peace with their settlement in Egypt, and the story of Genesis comes to a close. So here's a wall painting of a boy leading cattle from the town of Nebam, and this was around 1350, so that's, hold on. Can you see it? Okay. There you go. I don't know how to reverse when I'm making this video. And then here is a number, the mystery of the Hyksos. A number of scholars have linked the story of Joseph's ascent to the turmoil of Egypt's second intermediate period, which was around 1780 to 1850 BCE, when nomadic immigrants from Syria and northern Canaan took control of the Nile Delta. The Egyptians called these nomadic chieftains Hyksos, meaning desert princes. Because the Hyksos kings were of Semitic origin, they would have welcomed talented young men like Joseph into their administration. And so, there you have it, my friends, the story of Joseph. Tomorrow, we're going to be diving into the story of Moses. I think all of us know Moses, the Prince of Egypt. Well, that was a movie based on him. So, let's get right into our Disney story of the night, shall we? And so, tonight's story is, I've read quite a few of these stories. I'm just realizing that. Tonight's story is centered around the movie Cinderella, and the story is called Fit for a Princess. Cinderella hummed to herself as she slipped the silver needle through the colorful fabric. She had been working hard on her new quilt for weeks, and it was finally almost finished. Cinderella knew the quilt would be fit for a princess. The worn fabrics were colorful and soft, and with the cotton stuffing she found in the attic, the quilt would be wonderfully cozy, no more shivering under her threadbare blanket. Gus agreed. He couldn't help but climb between the sewn-together quilt fabric and snuggle into the cotton filling. Susie and Perla, who were helping Cinderella with the sewing, giggled. "Go and get us some thread, sleepyhead," they called. But Gus was already dozing off. The sound of his snores drifted out from between the layers of quilt. "Gus," Jock called, but the snores only got louder. "That mouse hasn't helped with this quilt one bit," Jock sighed and went to get the spools of thread himself. Cinderella was just sewing together the last edge of the quilt when loud footsteps echoed on the attic stairs. It was her stepsister, Anastasia. A moment later, she stormed into the room carrying a fancy blue gown. "My dress was not ironed properly," she shouted. "Can't you do anything right?" Then she spotted the quilt. "It's beautiful," she cried, "and it will look wonderful on my bed." Cinderella looked at Anastasia in shock. Would her stepsister really steal her quilt? She knew Anastasia and Drizella could be mean, but that would be downright cruel. Suddenly, the quilt began to move. A moment later, Gus's quivering nose poked out from between the unsewn pieces of fabric. "A rodent!" Anastasia screamed. She dropped her dress in fright and leaped onto a small wooden chair. "Why, that quilt isn't fit for use in the stable," she cried. Cinderella tried not to laugh as her stepsister leaped off the chair and fled down the stairs. Yawning, Gus climbed the rest of the way out of the quilt. "Well, Gus," Jock said, "I guess you end up helping with the quilt after all." I think Gus was a rat, and I'm actually was pet sitting rats. Not my cup of tea, but all power to people who have rats. I do believe all animals matter. And I do love rats because they're God's creatures, but I'm going to love them from afar. But God bless you. I hope you all have a good night. Take care.